think it's time to blow this scene. Get everybody in the stuff together. Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
You think you could lead a cult?
Yes, no doubt.
What would be your in?
There'd be so many ways. First, I think I have a magnetic beard. The more you look at it, the more it sends you to sleep.
Ooh,
Yeah.
it's true.
Yeah,
Hypnotic beards.
That guy had purple eyes in the episode we're going to talk about, and I think that's why he's magic, right? Is he had purple irises, right?
Well, he wasn't real, so that helps.
That helped. That did help that he wasn't real.
Because you never meet your heroes, right? So
No.
I think a key to a cult is that only the firm believers in the cult will get past the fact that you look at a meat sack at the end of the day. You know, for all the words and things they write down in their books or audiobooks or podcasts, if they do exist, you're like, oh, that guy's a guy who shits and eats just like the rest of us. And that dismisses a little or demystifies a little bit of that. But not when you're on a computer and you look fucking hot like this guy did.
That's right. I wouldn't. Well, also he was supposed to be like 95.
Mm-hmm.
That's how old he allegedly was as an image.
They're doing the Heaven's Gate thing again.
Right,
It was very relevant in the 90s.
Man, Heaven's Gate in media is so much more resonant and like significant than I think culturally it was. Right? Like they cared a lot about it, and we're like, oh yeah, it's like a Wikipedia entry now for us.
It feels like the 90s because we grew up in the 90s and were inundated with the stories and culture of the 90s. So developmentally, we were attaching ourselves to a lot of things like those cultural moments.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got a 9/11, and then it made
really
all those small moments like,
It did. You don't get in those weird human interest stories in the same way. Like everything is a larger conspiracy narrative after 9/11.
Everything is more global.
Yeah.
Everybody's story exists. And guess what? That brings us to the topic of today's debate.
Yeah, we're going to debate. Yeah.
Welcome to CU Space Podboys. Well, you win that one because you got the beard buff.
Stare at it.
Where we talk about there is no small stories. It's Cowboy Bebop.
That's right.
That's right. I'm Abe. He's Adam.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have anything else. I want to jump into this new episode 23.
We're closing
Brain Scratch.
Yeah.
The one where Faye gets into a cult despite not seeing all the details, and Bebop has to go save it.
That's right. I guess you better figure out which planet we're on, right?
This section is we're gonna do play-by-play, and I'm at bat this time. Scratch. It's an electronics movement.
Mm-hmm.
It's gained some popularity where it teaches humanity, hey, leave your body, download, and you'll become one with the electronics. You'll be the internet, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll all fucking have a party in there. And screw your body. Your body's bullshit. So that's their god. And we see that through a series of edits, like the first edits via TV. It's changing channels, meaning to say that the exposition of all this is like literally like 3 minutes, and it sets you up for the whole thing, and all it is changing channels, which is a nice little thing. Spike's watching at the end of this sequence, and he's watching a news profiling this piece because their leader has basically, ISSP has basically said, hey, guess what? This group needs to be investigated. We're sending out bounty hunters to catch this guy because a bunch of their, of his cult followers are basically offing themselves. And
hundreds or 100 or something like that. Some pretty high number.
And they want to stop the growth of the group, but the group keeps, they're depicted as kind of missionaries. They have
it's Scientology adjacent, right?
Adjacent, yeah. They're allowed in public areas. No one's stopping them, but now there's
flyers.
Now they're trying to kill themselves. Also, we see in the news an anchor explains that Scratch uses a video game console that's designed for VR to kind of use brain controlled like radio waves to control your you basically shut down. And that's another part of the appeal. We've seen this depiction in a lot of things.
This is a real thing at the time. Like this like what if you digitized yourself on the internet? Right? Like that idea was very popular around this era.
Right. And we're finally introduced to the man, the myth, the legend, the leader, Dr. Londis, who is telling his audience basically to exist outside their own bodies. And we get, opinions from professors of Mars University. We get other dissidents basically saying that it's pure science fiction. It's not even possible to do. But the TV is preaching a debate because, they're being like, what if it is, though? Like, who knows? So that's adding fuel to the fire of all these lonely people. And where they're going to, which is to die, I guess.
The way it worked wasn't totally fleshed out, right? Like what the inner circle mechanics of it are was not. We didn't get a lot on that.
No, and then we get the reveal at the very end as the Bebop's watching, and we've noticed that Faye is missing.
Right,
like most, which we'll talk about later, like most of times that Faye has her own solo journey. Faye is there. Faye is now one of the leaders chanting the calls, and we're like, what's up with that? So Jet and Spike are basically going like, well, now this makes sense that we go after this. It's a tasty little bounty, and what's going on with Faye. And on Mars, Faye has not actually yet joined the cult, but is attempting to claim the bounty herself on Dr. Londis. And as she approaches this abandoned room, she is basically infiltrated. It's just a bunch of TVs.
Yeah, stacked up,
and it's abandoned, and there's dead bodies everywhere.
Yep.
In this isolated, abandoned, probably she found out that this is where he actually is, and they have an address, on the letterhead of Scratch or whatever.
It's real esoteric in there, I think we should say. Like, it feels like a living metaphor, Yeah.
And she pulls out a gun, but what does a gun do to a TV screen or an idea? Nothing. So she's like, okay, I gotta bail. As she turns and runs, her eyes get blurry, and she falls asleep.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Edward on the Bebop side is hacking Londis's whereabouts, finding very little. Jet tracks down Londis's old research colleagues, and Spike talks to recruiters. But everything comes up scratch, Adam.
Yeah, I love it.
Because they say he's left his physical form and he's living the dream, and in the internet, I guess.
They're all pretty, it's a lot of dead ends, feels like, in this episode.
Yeah. And the other thing, as you mentioned, is he's like 90. So all of his actual colleagues that knew his personal opinions knew the man, as opposed to whatever incantation this is, are too old or too dead. Even Big Shot can't report. In fact, the Big Shot, we get a huge beat. Big Shot is canceled.
Yeah. I know.
Because no ratings.
Oh, shit. We have terrible ratings. Shucks howdy was the line.
Yeah. And I remember when I was a kid, I felt that so much.
Yeah.
Because I know that, like, a lot of shows, you return to home. When home changes, it feels like a betrayal by the show to the audience member.
That's the first beat where you're like, oh, shit, it's ending. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is like the plane's actually beginning to land.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Big Shot's over. Can't believe it.
So they regroup with hat in hand at Bebop, and Faye contacts them. She's disoriented, babbling about getting rid of her debts, and then the communication cuts out. Jet basically says, Spike, go get Faye, which he does. And then he goes and buys online the brain dream device, the PS5, VR
the VR
thing.
headset. Which, by the way, looked cool. Kind of looked cool, I thought.
Kind of looks dope.
They had a Tomb Raider game behind it. That the game they were selling this VR headset on was clearly a Tomb Raider. You know,
again, I'll mention the phrase Z-Rust, retro futurism.
Yeah,
the idea that it's like a lived-in thing that feels analog maybe, but also digital in its essence. But point is, it looks nice to play with. In any case, Jet puts on the machine to see like maybe there's a way in which I can, cross this heart of darkness myself, while Edward monitors. But as he enters the website, he kind of becomes a drone again himself, because the scratch is sending the signal that essentially shuts down all of the vital components for like motor function and questioning anything. Basically, being brainwashed.
That tech is very powerful, by the way. Like somebody should get a hold of that shit. You know?
Yeah.
Just
if
saying.
I had a cold, if I had one sound, I would play the brown note. Just make everyone shit themselves. Even Ed doesn't realize that this is happening. It's once again Ein. Ein is the one with
Ein.
the
Like the headset falls on the dog, and the dog solves it. It's perfect.
Well, they put the headset on the dog later because they're like, I bet it kind of works on dogs.
Yeah.
But Ein is the one who's like barking at the video, knows that the sound is there. Maybe it's the hypersonic, frequencies that only a dog can hear, but bites Jet so that he wakes up because he knows that this is going to like damage your brain. So Jet, removes the brain dream device and they put it on Ein because the high frequency pulse paralyzes, here it is, the sympathetic nervous system for unknown purposes. So they try the system again using Ein as the test subject. And Ein completely takes control as the program restarts.
He brain dogs it. He brain dogs his way through this problem.
Bypasses all the normal screens. And this is the only time the data dog aspect of Ein is actually, like, we get hints of it. Like, he's like, oh, I'm smart, or, I know how to play chess or something like that. This is literally dog hacking, which is amazing. Because this is like, of all of the moments for Ein, this is the most glorious.
This is
in my mind.
This is Ein's climax narratively.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Ein is fucking truly a member of Bebop right now.
He's the head of Bebop right now.
But through the backdoor hack, Ed kind of narrates us through Dr. Landis isn't actually a real person. All this stuff was entirely fabricated. Even the photos and the people that he supposedly knew, all of that is AI generated photos and videos and stuff like that. There just never was a Dr. Landis. And then they realize where does it all lead, and they find a hospice on Mars.
Yeah.
So Jet drags Ed along with him, and they go to the hospice disguised as like a father and daughter bluffing their way into the building.
He's wearing a lemon meringue colored suit. That suit
beautiful.
Is unreal. Lots of time should be spent on it, but we don't have it. But man, a whole episode could be spent on that cream-colored yellow suit.
Not
amazing.
to mention Ed's beautiful dress.
Ed in a dress made me laugh.
Which feels so wrong because the identity of Ed.
It's so weird. Yeah.
Also, she's owning it. He's owning it. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing.
She keeps chirping Papa at him the whole time in
Papa
in the least believable con you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we cut to the Spike and Faye section. So Spike arrives at the place where Faye collapsed and is in the same room that Faye finds her unconscious. Televisions turn on, and we hear the disembodied voice of Dr. Landis speaking directly to Spike. So he's like in the room. He's aware there's cameras here. And he's like, this is just how I deal with bounty hunters. Basically, I just put you to sleep and then you just die. You just die of hunger or thirst or whatever on the ground right there. And he reveals his like, you must wonder why I do all this. And he's like, so he does that whole villain thing, and he's just like, I created this character because I want to control people, because I have no control over my own life, because you see, I'm just a body on a table in suspended animation, basically.
It kind of screeches it as he dies. It's very like Wizard of Oz.
He's righteous in his indignation because he declares he's not forcing anything on people. People want to believe in God. People want to believe in him. That's just the essence of being the human organism, man.
A subject I'm sure you and I will discuss as part of
back to the hospice, Ed and Jet find the young boy on life support where all this stuff is coming from. And it's basically a young hacker who had an accident and was basically... he's in a coma, but his brain is active and he's still a hacker, and he found a way through the device that he's on to essentially design a character and find a way to live a life, which is interesting to me, and I'm sure we'll talk about this. He actually attained the thing that he was trying to say. It just necessitates that you give up your body. So he's not a liar in any sense of even the thing in which he's trying to do, he's living it. It's just a terrible thing to do to people, and a terrible thing that happened to this boy. So Ed accesses the program, shuts it down. Jet turns on a screen to see the communication as Landis is like having his howl moment where he's like, oh God, why? I can't feel my legs. I mean, bites. And Landis then tells Spike in his final moments this monologue about television as a religion, which I think is amazing.
Yeah.
He's like, I can influence, control the population. And of course, Spike is like, I'm so bored.
Yeah, so bored of this.
and
not even a little bit affected. Yeah.
I think he's falling asleep because Landis is starting to, use his
brain
sonic powers.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And in Spike fashion, the way he approaches this problem, shoot the TV screens.
It's beautiful work.
Because that's going to do something.
Yeah.
Of course it doesn't. He falls down. And then, and we realize at the same time, Ed, Jet, Spike, and, presumably Faye had this realization a little before. He's just a child with a toy.
He doesn't
and
like
as
that,
he's
though.
shut down, he does not like that. It's like, it's not a toy.
No, it's not a toy.
And in fact, we get this, and I love this, in the final moments, he becomes very scared.
Yeah.
It's like, this is unfair. Why?
Yeah, this isn't
Why?
fair. I don't want to shut down.
Because it's the only it's the only life he was living.
Mm-hmm.
It was the only experience he got. And that's the thing about life.
Mm-hmm.
It comes with experience, the good and the bad, but all of us want and need it because it's all we got. So the Landis program has been shut down. Jet discovers, we get a kind of explanation that this, Rosny Spangen.
They sprint past that name. Like, just sprint right past it.
Yeah, he was in this medical accident 2 years ago at the age of 13, and I love that Jet puts handcuffs on his
body. Where's he going? Yeah, what are we doing? Also, he doesn't lock both hands. He just puts one handcuff on him like, I did get you. I just want you to know, sir, I did get you.
Faye wakes up because no longer, presumably, is she asleep, so, or at least being forced to sleep. So they return together. And... yeah, Jet also argues that when life becomes only a dream, he surmises, if all you can do is dream, dreams eventually turn into nightmares.
Yeah,
and that's
he does
why we're
imply
living
that.
in this. Yeah. And Edward has a haunting moment that is legitimately a jump scare at the end of the episode where Ed, who usually talks like this and yay and all, super... in like a earnest
it's
kind of
salient.
direct to camera.
Yeah.
And this time I hope you have sweet dreams.
You're definitely twisting what it's supposed to feel like. You're right that it's hilarious and weird. But it's supposed to be this like benevolent beat. But it is strange coming out of Edward's mouth for sure.
Why is Ed putting on airs? Why is it just be Ed? I don't know. Anyway, that's the end of the episode, and that pushes us next to our next section where I'm gonna take a break because we're each gonna take about 5 minutes and discuss part of the execution of this episode that we felt specifically was stellar in a section we call Pushing the Sky.
I want to listen to that guitar solo forever. Okay, I watched this episode twice to see what is it about it that's creatively unique among Cowboy Bebop episodes. And I think the obvious answer that appealed that sort of popped out to me is this is an episode that's full of POV shots, way more than any of the other episodes in this canon. And the reason for that, I think, is to try to give us as direct of an experience of the cult as it can. So, and they're like, it's pretty relentless. First of all, we have the whole sequence with the television where we're never in the television. We're always watching a screen with the channel on it, implying we're looking through somebody's eyes, and it takes a pretty long time to identify whose eyes they are. Right?
Mhm.
So we're having a pretty subjective experience of watching this on television, including the sort of fragmented advertisement that's clearly very subjective of Dr. Londas and, you know, the third eye stuff and all that, right? So there's that. And I was like, okay, sure. They're doing like a little Rick and Morty TV episode. And so they give us a TV experience to give us the thrust of it. But the POV shots actually continue for quite some time. There are POV shots when Spike and Jet go out to interview various parties, and like the cult members look almost exactly at Lens when they ask, like, do you want a flyer? The old guy that Jet is interviewing looks almost directly at Lens when he looks up and says, I don't know if who are you talking about? This old guy? I don't remember him. You know, like that part of the interview. Also, Faye, when Faye actually passes out, we get an actual POV shot from her showing the weird distortion. When
eyes,
yeah. So I'm just pointing out, like, this is an episode that's actually a little bit difficult to make fun or actiony because there's no real action beats. It's all mind control stuff. And even the normally subjective experience of the internet we get through Ed isn't enough to jazz this thing up, right? Mm-hmm. So the director was like, okay, if I can't do that, the thing I can do is give you as much subjectivity so you get the effect of this character and living in this world with this point of view. And point of view shots was kind of their only tool to do that. So, and they're pretty smooth with it in a way where you don't notice it's continuing. And that part I thought was pretty rad. I also was interested in talking a little bit about the space where Spike and Faye meet, but I don't want to steal that from you if that's something you wanted to talk about.
No, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so that space, I thought a lot about it. It really stood out to me the first time I watched it. It was like, why is this thing?
It's like a pyramid of TVs.
A pile of televisions in an abandoned wasteland. And, I mean, obviously it's metaphorical, right? Like, it's like there's obviously a metaphorical piece of it. I looked into the pile of TVs, like, where have we seen it before? The best answer I can give is we saw it in Johnny Mnemonic, which was like a cyberpunk movie. We also saw a bit of it in the Zoo TV tour that U2 was doing, which was a pretty big cultural touchstone for some people, probably people of this age, that also had a sort of TV as distorting your world messianic thing. And I think more than that, it has the feeling of a handmade altar. Like it's
an altar.
Yeah, it has the appearance of this is what you'd do if you were worshiping Baal or something.
Yeah,
right?
The bricks are themselves made of...
these are all stones of remembrance or something, right? Mm-hmm. So it has a kind of pagan tower feeling to it. And the point of view that this television tower represents is also kind of a weird ziggurat. You know what I mean? Like it has a little bit of a like an ancient worship thing to it. Like its point of view is a little bit derived from that. Certainly it's got some Buddhism in it, and certainly it's got some retro, like some futurism in the like, let's abandon your body. But it's also, that belief goes back to like really early religions and to like Gnosticism and other beliefs like that.
Like we talked about Heaven's Gate, it's the idea that if there is a promised land, whether it be heaven or whether it be, you know, the digital age, there's people who are going to kill themselves in order to try to attempt to attain it.
Especially if the body is a prison. If the body is bad and the spirit needs to be set free, then this is the perfect manifestation of that, where the physical world surrounding these televisions is corrupt, destructive, full of like sort of almost like Dante's Inferno-esque wasted bodies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it really does feel like something out of
Littering
the Divine Comedy.
doorsteps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the ziggurat is telling you need to sacrifice your body to escape this plane.
And obviously attracting very damaged and lonely people.
Right.
You know, with the promise, but also the, hey, isn't it true that life sucks and it's a catastrophe? And, you know, like,
yeah. I appreciated the subtle ways they sort of connected the topic to imagery that could be interpreted through a variety of historic lenses.
Mhm.
You know, like that's actually not an obvious thing. And it could have been something stupid and Wizard of Ozzy, and it wasn't. You know, and I'm not saying Wizard of Oz is bad. I'm just saying if it was a giant head floating in a hologram, you'd be like annoyed with it. You know what I mean? But this image had a feeling that meant something. That's all. Those are my observations.
Nice. I also do want to talk about the flipping channels for exposition section. Itself as a tactic, why is it done this way? And I want to connect it to other episodes where it's done this way as well. And I want to bring up the fact that it may not make sense until I explain it, but flipping channels is like a specter in a way, because it's fleeting thoughts of multiple perspectives. You try to like gather it all in a way that's comprehensible, but we just move on.
Right.
Right. And there's two different sessions that we follow our bounty hunters that are chasing a ghost. The ones that I remember offhand are the Chess Master one with Chess Master Hex and Brain Scratch, obviously. And there's several more if you count like boogeyman types that end up being something not what we expected at all, like the lonely satellite AI or toys in the attic even. Faye's past is a ghost. Most of this is done by Bebop to remind you that the world is very weird and near impossible to control. What appeals to people, obviously, as you just talked about, is the removal of the past and the body and all the baggage, but elimination of past baggage by trying to ascend and by trying to do it through download ultimately is fleeting. It's nothing. It's all, we're just moving on. Basically, the moving onness of basically this parade of channel changing, where it's just constantly switching. Which I want for next episode. I want people to think about that rhythm that happens.
Constantly switching channels.
You can't.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the same thing then. I think. Great.
Probably.
Great.
But just all that idea is that is the constancy of the universe. There is a frequency. There is a thing in which we have to live. We have to move on. People can hate that and want the story to stop. People can also embrace it and allow the story to continue. I think that is such a great editorial device to elucidate that kind of vibe. That I think it immediately elevates that section as one of the top tier sections in this thing. But that's really all I have to say about Brain Scratch's TV changing. More on it later, I guess.
It sounds like you're predicting what the next episode might sound like.
For now, all I'll predict is that we're moving on to the next section, which is you're going to carry that weight.
What do you think it means that this religious leader is the product of a disgruntled, comatose hacker? Like, do you think that undermines or validates the religious leader's perspective?
I don't think it validates or disregards or, defeats. There's no logic here. It's simply a boy who didn't get experience in life, much like Faye, who is frustrated with the fact that they didn't get to experience life, the good and the bad. So they are unnaturally whipping it into being.
The decision then was like, I'm going to take everyone else's life if I can, and they should all live the way I live, except for they're not going to live how he lives. They're all going to be dead.
Yes.
And he continues on in hospice. I'm not saying that invalidates what he has to say. I'm just sort of like sifting through where this episode landed on that question.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because like the storytellers are very gentle and not that judgmental about what this kid's doing.
Right. You either see him as a murderer or you see him as just like complacent with murdering happening. With suicide happening.
Or you sympathize. You're like, I would feel the same way. Like, it's interesting. Once the broadcast is shut off, we get the choir. You know, that choir that sort of is recurrent in Cowboy Bebop that tends to be when the most substantial moments happen. And there's like, it's certainly one more moment coming in the series. It starts the minute the transmission stops. You know, and then we actually look at this poor kid. I say poor because I do feel bad for him. And there is a kind of peace that returns once the broadcast is over. And in fact, Edward kind of has a benevolent benediction on this guy, which you laughed at, and I think for good reasons. But also then we get another broadcast where he's sort of still saying the same thing, but it's not, and now commit suicide with your body, poor fools, but it's like, we have so much potential, we could be so much more. Although the show was like resetting him like he's a broken computer, reset him, and
also,
now it works.
That's Watanabe dunking on his own audience, saying like, you fucking religious nuts who like this show, you're just as aimless. Anyway.
That's funny. What do you think about this TV is the enemy thing? That was a very 90s plotline, right? Like, TV is a mind control device. Like, how do you feel about that plot now in 2026?
What do you mean? You mean in the developed information age where we turn around and see that people will believe lies?
Well, yeah, kind of.
Make up things. And look, Maxine is apparently a term I need to know. So
wouldn't you say this felt a little more preposterous in its day than it does now? Like, it's become a bit more salient than maybe even they thought it was?
Yeah, I do think that it still comes, it's cut of the same cloth, but like most things on the internet age, it's been hyper agitated and there's more of it and there's more people than ever. But it's the same stuff. It all comes from the idea of you're being sold snake oil. And you fall for it because you're unhappy and you're lost and sad. And I think Bebop is the reason I think that moment is not glorified, and I think you traced it pretty correctly. It's not glorified, but that moment where it's like, I hope you have sweet dreams, though, is that Bebop is about how, yes, grief can be a sword. It can damage others. It can cause them to commit suicide. And by association, honestly, I would say that that's indiscernible between itself and murder. This boy is a murderer. I would probably argue with my own personal morality. But
I think he's a murderer, yeah.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing.
Bebop's not here to pass judgment. Bebop is here Bebop is here to show, yes, grief, it can be a sword, but grief is also a stage of life, and grief is something that we get ourselves out of by embracing more of life instead of turning away from it like this kid did. And I truly believe that that's what the positivity in those final moments are about.
I think I totally agree with that. The way I phrased it to myself when I was thinking about it is that even though he did these monstrous things, he never lost his humanity. Mm-hmm. The thing that he's arguing should transcend the human spirit, he still has it, even having done all this. Worse shows would have, like, sort of given the drag me to hell ending for this character, you know, like where he dies and then, like, and that's it. But instead, he doesn't. He's allowed to live, and there's a kind of not a redemption, but another chance. There's another chance for him to have better dreams. You know?
It's interesting just in the phraseology, because I think it's a shorthand. I use the same throughout this episode. But when we talk about Dr. Landis, the boy, Rosny, is not Dr. Landis. In fact, Dr. Landis
No, that's a character.
Is a character that
Right.
isn't even acting the way that Rosny would. It's
Correct.
not the boy. The boy has been destroyed. The
Yes.
boy is now in a coma. And I'm not saying he destroyed himself because he got agitated and angry and because he was in a coma. All that stuff motivated it, sure. But literally the decision-making process, I wouldn't be able to, in court, to say a human did that. Because at a certain point in AI now got involved. And now
Well,
it's
I don't know if
bastardized the humanity.
That's interesting.
So I don't even think it's human, the thing that's doing this. I just think it was motivated from a human place.
I took from the confession that was happening as he was being unplugged that he did knowingly create this character and act as this character.
I think it has sentience, but that doesn't mean it's Rosny.
I don't agree with that. I think that we're supposed to take that it was Rosny.
Well, if you, in my opinion, if you study futurism and you study like Human Body 2.0 and stuff like that, there's a lot of literature that just kind of discusses. I think it's fairly interesting. I'm not citing on because I think your perspective is right as well. But there's a lot of literature that discuss where is the line of humanity.
Well, that's a question we're all fascinated with now.
What is the Turing test? Yeah, and I think that this one kind of sidesteps that question, but moreover is like, just assume for a bit that it's kind of not an easily discernible test. By doing so, you now don't, culpability becomes now a gray
That's
specter.
interesting that you might diffuse the possibility of who did this if he has to use some sentient program to achieve it. A thing that would be true if this was being grounded in 2026. So that's an interesting thing. Not exactly how I saw the episode, but I agree with you that if you take all blame out of it, then it really is a conversation about sort of the dark and light side of consciousness, and whether that's even a human thing per se, or just a multi-sided curse. You know, that's why you get the blessing and curse of Jet and Edward at the end. They both have different interpretations of
It's
what
a nightmare.
could come
It's
from
just
this.
a dream.
Yeah,
But sweet dreams can happen still. Yeah,
exactly. That belief, I think, is fascinating, and I found that very compassionate and surprising, because I've never seen a show with a con artist where the con artist didn't sort of cacklingly get burned alive or jailed or whatever, and at the end we're like, well, a great evil was removed from the earth. You know what I mean? Like Sauron exploding at the end.
yeah. We want it all tied up in a bow. Bebop is anti-bow.
Yeah, and it didn't do that. Yeah, it didn't do it. What the hell did Faye think she was going to get from this guy? Like, what was the scam in Faye's mind?
Oh, she gets the bounty and she gets under. It's like 58
So it's
million
bounty.
wulongs.
This is a bounty.
It's
she
for
thought.
the bets. Yeah, but I think that there was an
Okay.
attraction to the cult symbolically, given the fact that she lost her body and was in a coma for
Yeah, right. Sure. That makes
decades.
sense.
Yeah, that it would
Yeah.
be like, oh, I could infiltrate this cult, no problem. I know exactly how to talk about this stuff. Last episode, I mentioned that you should, or a few episodes ago, we should look at the last 4 episodes before the Real Folk Blues, which is a 2-parter. So, 20 through 23. Or, yeah, I got those numbers wrong. 21 through 24 or something like that. The last 4, how they're each different people's episodes, and look at the narrative choices or structure mainly about what the thing is. And this one is interesting. And the only one that doesn't kind of might throw a wrench in my like clean theory of it, but I still think it stands because there's a spy movie in this episode.
Yeah.
We just don't see it.
Yeah.
And remember the thing I was talking about flashing channels as a specter, and it's like you're just gathering nothing almost. Faye infiltrates the cult, and notice that none of the other members of the Bebop see that story, right? And that's always the case with Faye. Always the case. So there's like a spy movie arc, but she's dealing with it solo, and we only see like the climax where she's actually saved. And we only really see it through Spike's lens because they chose him for the main arc, kind of the main character's perspective, I guess. We'll talk about that later.
Didn't feel like his story ever, though. I didn't think. It felt more like this kid's story, if I had to pick a person.
Right. I mean, which is true of a lot of the, quote, small stories of Bebop, right?
Yeah, they once in a while will take on somebody else's story and just, like, tell that. And that's really all that it is.
Once again, that's why I love the idea that it's a session. It's a language that's pulled from, not just from the leitmotif of music, the idea that you sit down and you have a session, but once again, it's fleeting. Everyone did these improvised notes. It was written on the paper, but we went out for it. We had a session,
and now
then it's gone. Yeah. Scratch, also, brain scratch. Literally means nothing. Scratch means nothing. It's all ghosts, baby.
I don't want to waste. I don't want to totally foretell some points I have in the next episode, but I think this would be an interesting episode to study for color. I think there's more stuff going on in color in this episode than some others.
It is, but yeah,
and saturation in particular.
Yeah,
but I want to talk more about that next episode, where I think it really does matter.
I agree. Let's do a longer episode next episode, and let's just close this one up. Yeah. So just so people understand where we are and where we're going, as I mentioned, this is episode 23. We have 24, which next episode is Hard Luck Woman, which is, if you've seen the show, the one where Ed leaves.
Yeah.
So sad.
Oh boy, I cried my eyes out twice.
But it's kind of, I mean, to me, this is the true, I think Brain Scratch is the true canary in the coal mine, because it's the last time that Bebop breathes life into its main thesis, which is the small stories of it all are what unite us and make us human. The narrative of humanity is a bunch of tiny little stories, because from here on in, it's big stories, baby. We get, how does the rest of Bebop live with what's the events of what's happened in the last year? And that's Hard Luck Woman. And then we get, of course, the Real Folk Blues, parts 1 and 2, which are essentially the end of Spike.
And the end of the Bebop crew.
See you, Space Cowboy.